Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, I titled this video, This is How the Economy Fails. And I'm pretty serious about that because the economy is you and me, right? It is the individual person. It's the decisions that we make. It's the things that we invest in. It's the places that we go with our money. That's the economy, each one of us individually. So how it is that we perceive the economy individually is what the economic outlook will be. Right? Now, there is no way that the economy is always going to be satisfactory to everybody 100% of the time. It just doesn't work like that. Now, you have to look at the economy for what it is and then position yourself in the most appropriate fashion. Now, I'm going to read a couple of things here that are really going to describe how it is that the Federal Reserve truly operates within this system. Now, many of you have heard of me talk about the speech given by Ben Bernanke from back in 2002 on how it was that they were going to deal with the economy once the inflationary scenario or the deflationary scenario became so prevalent within the economy that they would have to use unusual tools in order to rescue us, right? Rescue us from the deflationary scenario that they knew would eventually come. We are there. What we are experiencing is all the things that the Federal Reserve would have needed to do in order to combat deflation. All this inflation that we are experiencing saved the Federal Reserve. It is so counterintuitive to what most people think. It makes it very difficult to understand what it is that's happening within the economy. So again, like the economy that fails is because you have failed to understand what was taking place within the economy to begin with. Right? So each one of us understanding this as an individual is how you learn to deal with the economic bad times, right? It's because of the position that you have put yourself in. All right. Before I get started, let's talk about the Ben Bernanke speech, that credible threat theory. This is probably one of the most obscure ideas that ever came to monetary policy, right? Was the forward guidance. Now, the Federal Reserve described this as a gold machine. And if you can imagine, an individual develops this, invents, comes up with this idea of having a gold machine that can produce as much gold at will with very little cost or energy. The moment that this information gets out to the public, the price of gold would plummet immediately. Right? Before he even produced a single ounce of gold or even had the machine to do it, just the credible threat alone would be enough to move the markets. This is essentially the heart of the credible threat theory. Forward guidance is when the Federal Reserve comes right out and says something. We are planning to move interest rates at the next meeting. Going to do it. Everybody begins to get prepared and deal with that situation. Now, I'm going to read from The Death of Money. All right, this is a James Rickards book, and I believe this was written in 2014. And it's crazy because somebody gave me this book just the other day. Like, it was sitting on my desk when I got to work on Monday. And so I was like, oh, hey, cool. I have Currency Wars. Haven't read it yet, but I have it and I would love to read it. And I know James Rickards is definitely somebody that I really appreciated a lot listening to when I was learning, the beginnings of trying to understand economics to begin with. Very instrumental. Now, again, I haven't read this book, but when I opened it up, I landed right at this particular chapter in this particular paragraph. It was like almost like, I don't even know. Like, anyway, it goes like this. In the Fed's view, the most important part of its program to mitigate fear in the markets is communication policy, also called forward guidance, through which the Fed seeks to amplify easing impacts by promising it will continue for sustained periods of time or until certain unemployment and inflation targets are reached. The policy debate over forward guidance as an adjunct to market manipulation is a continuation of one of the most long-standing areas of intellectual inquiry in modern economics. This inquiry involves imperfect information or information asymmetry, a situation in which one party has superior information to another that induces suboptimal behavior by both parties. Okay. Point is, talking about forward guidance, talking about how it's manipulative within the markets because it gets people to do things that typically they would not do just based off of the information alone. Now, I'm going to read from this speech given just yesterday by Christopher Waller, and who is a voting member of the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee. As much as people want to believe that Jerome Powell is fully in charge of monetary policy, he isn't. He has a voting seat on the FOMC, but there's 11 other members plus 5 alternates. One of those members is Christopher Waller, and he has this to say. This is the title. It says, Thoughts on Quantitative Tightening, including remarks on the paper, Quantitative Tightening Around the Globe, What Have We Learned? All right, so thoughts on quantitative tightening. That's basically the title of the speech. Now, I'm not going to read the whole speech. I'm just going to go down here to one paragraph, and it reads like this. The asymmetry of quantitative easing versus quantitative tightening. For me, one of the most interesting results of the paper is that the announcement effects of quantitative easing are much larger than the announcement effects of quantitative tightening. Did you guys hear that? For me, the most interesting result of the paper, this is a paper that was studied on quantitative easing and quantitative tightening, right? For me, the most interesting result of this paper is that the announcement effects of quantitative easing are much larger than the announcement effects of quantitative tightening. You see that? Just the announcement alone. All right. The authors find that the announcement of quantitative tightening have a small but statistically significant effect in increasing government bond yields, about 4 to 8 basis points. Now, that's not a lot. Like a basis point is 0.01, so we're talking very little, but what they are saying is that it does have an effect on that. The quantitative tightening have a small but statistically significant effect in increasing government bond yields by 4 to 8 basis points. Just the announcement, not the doing of anything, just the announcement alone is enough to significantly affect the increase, right? Not dramatically, not a lot, small, but it does. But this effect is much smaller in absolute terms than the prevailing estimates of the decrease in yields from announcements of QE. Now, I know this is kind of really odd to hear because the Fed speak is very confusing, but let me read it again. But this effect is much smaller in absolute terms than the prevailing estimates of the decrease in yields from the announcements of QE. So what they're saying is that QE had a much bigger effect, right? Although it doesn't it's kind of hard to read that out of there, but the effects is much smaller in absolute terms than the prevailing estimates of the decrease in yields from the announcements of QE. The conclusion is that the interest rate effects of QE and QT are asymmetric, meaning they're not the same on both sides. For an economist, this result may seem puzzling, and it does, because most people feel that the quantitative easing and quantitative tightening are mirrored, right? Quantitative easing prints out a bunch of money, quantitative tightening takes it all back out, like one for the other, right? For an economist, this result may be puzzling. Why would changing the sign on an action lead to asymmetric effects on prices and the real variables? Now, I'm going to break this speech down entirely in a live stream that is for members only. If you want to be part of that members only live stream, there is a link down in the description of this video. We are going to break this down tomorrow afternoon, word for word, but you have to become a member of the channel. If you want to go and find the link for yourself, it's down in the description of this video. You can read the speech and you can try and decipher all this stuff for yourself, or you can become part of the members of the channel. So, unconventional tools of quantitative easing and quantitative tightening do not have the same results upon the economy because it's all about perception, right? It's all about how it is that you are going to feel and how it is that you are going to react to this information, to this news. It's all about the announcements. I mean, this is what blows me away when I think about the economy and all the news and all the stuff that you hear and all the propaganda that is out there. This is literally guiding us right into the path that the Federal Reserve was hoping for. Now, if we go back and we look at the Fed speech given back in November of 2018 by John Williams, where he said that the major problem that the Federal Reserve was facing was an inflation scenario of an expectation that was too low rather than too high. Right? They totally solved their inflationary scenario problem that they were having. And this is part of the problem that most people are facing, is that they just don't understand that the forward guidance is literally gaslighting them. right? The announcements alone is changing the way that people will perceive what it is that's taking place within the economy and then get them to react before the Federal Reserve does anything at all, right? And this is the main policy tools that the Federal Reserve is using, and most people don't see it. They think that the Federal Reserve has completely blew it. They don't know what they're doing. They have it wrong. They're positioned everybody wrong. They're about ready to fail. Like all this stuff that you hear out there is part of the problem that people don't even realize that they are facing, right? Is that is the exact scenario that the Federal Reserve needs in order for them to conduct themselves the way they do, in order to keep this monetary policy in the fashion that they do, where it's literally their words that are guiding the entire thing, right? It's crazy to think about. All right, so we're 10 minutes into this. Let me cruise back here a little ways. Thanks, Simon. Good morning. All right. Good morning there, Deja Vu. Calling 10 on the dice. Thank you, Brody. All right. Morning, Owen Baird. All right. Good morning, All-Nighter. Good morning, everyone. All right. Deborah says good morning. Owen Baird's kittens. What's with that? Okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to have to do fear-mongering titles, and the kittens part was just me being sarcastic about it. Essentially, I just will not be able to make any money on YouTube without trying to put fear-mongering titles and clickbaiting stuff, because it just doesn't work any other way. So I could come out here and put out like hardcore good information, things that are really breaking down the economy in every kind of fashion I can, and it literally will get zero attention on there. But the moment that, I put the markets are going to crash tomorrow and everybody dies, I get 35,000 views, and it's awesome, right? So it's unfortunate, but that's just what I'm going to have to do. You don't want the fear-mongering stuff, like just go to the live streams that I do with the members only, because that's pretty like straightforward and, relevant information as we just break down those Federal Reserve speeches, and we don't have to deal with a bunch of scare tactics in order to make a couple of dollars on YouTube. It's just, that's why I did kittens, because I just wanted to be somewhat sarcastic about it. All right. Coming in live from Gary, Indiana. Man, that is so awesome, dude. Working on the place out there. Dude, I can't wait to see the pictures. All right. Previously owner is now squatting and playing music really loud. I'm about to go in the break. Right on, man. All right. Let's see. Colin 6. Hit the likes, everyone. Morning. Hey, buds. Hey, Brody. I'm only going to be out here for about another 15, 20 minutes. I'm not going to do a very long live stream. I really just wanted to pretty much advertise for the live stream, for the members only live stream, to break this speech down, because this is literally like the information that people would need to know to internalize in order to make the best decisions for themselves. And for the most part, trying to understand that stuff is very difficult. Having a conversation about it is the best way to really understand it. And even if you can't be part of the live stream, as far as just joining in on it, being a member gives you access to that video, and you can go and read the comments and, get the information still from it later on whenever you're convenient. Good morning, everyone. Be sure to hit the like button. Yes, please do. All right. Hey, dishes. Let's get some questions. Okay. It makes sense. Most people tend to look for positivity in their immediate lives. QE and talk of rate cuts sounds more positive to the message is amplified people's minds. Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, it's amazing on how dramatically people began to conduct themselves differently just off of the perception that there was 13 rate cuts coming in the future. Like, I mean, all these people had this crazy idea on how much was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, activity in mortgage markets started happening, and all kinds of just behavioral differences started to occur, right? And I was the one who was saying, man, that's not that dot plot thing. That is not something that is telling the future, right? That is going off of what current market conditions are and what the Fed would perceive the interest rates would need to be if this was to continue. Things never continue like that. Everything changes constantly. So to that dot plot is just it's an as if, it's not a guarantee, All right, wait more. A book of matches and a gas can is probably what you need for those $1 house. Just hint of rate cut roars the real estate market back to life. Yeah, it sure does. Hey, Simon, what causes deflation? How come the Fed needs strategies to prevent it? Is it just a consequence of efficiency gains due to technology innovations? Well, that's part of it, but as far as the innovations and stuff like that, but no, really, it's not. Deflation is a major problem when they get to the lower bound. That's the major issue, is that once the Federal Reserve hits the lower bound of zero, until then they still have ammo to fight, right? So deflation isn't a big deal to the Federal Reserve until they get to the lower bound of zero. Now, the real problem with low interest rates and a deflationary scenario is the return on capital investment. And this is the hardest part, that like Dr. Lacey Hunt does a great job of this. This is like his kind of information. But really, if you kind of understand it, that the low interest rate environment literally is a deflationary scenario, even if the interest rates are positive, even if inflation is positive, right? But the low interest rate is really where the return on capital investment ends up going negative. Okay, so if you can imagine, like, the easiest way is to imagine like inheriting $1 million back in the early 80s when interest rates were really high, like 15% on a US Treasury. You can loan the US government for 10 years $1 million and get paid like $150,000 a year. Not a bad living for early 80s, with $1 million investment, like $150,000 a year, buys houses and cars and goes on vacation, has a great time. All right. So the return on capital investment back in the early 80s with high interest rates was able to participate back into the economy. That return on capital was then a positive, right? Even with high inflation, it was still a positive thing. As far as going into the economy, you had a return on it. Now, you take it to today, you invest $1 million with the U.S. government, and you get like, I don't know, it's less than 50,000, what, 40 something, $42,000 a year? I don't know, whatever it is today, right? So it's a lot of money, but it's not that great, right? So the return on capital investment, when you have these low interest rates, doesn't really give you enough to participate back into the economy. And then when you have high inflation going on top of it, it will actually go negative, meaning that your purchasing power doesn't have the same effect, the same quality of power that it had back when you invested, right? So if you had purchased, just stuff before you invested, you would have had a lot more than after you had invested. And that's like scary to think about. That's the deflationary scenario that is occurring, even if inflation and everything else is still, still in a positive fashion. That's what the Federal Reserve was most concerned about right there, right? And that if you can understand that part of it, then you would understand a lot more on why it is that they absolutely had to have inflation in order to save their monetary policy, right? The problem they needed to solve, ironically, these days was the inflation expectation that was persistently too low rather than too high. That's what John Williams was saying back in 2018. So it worked. Like, literally, they got it back. And it was the people's perception that the Federal Reserve failed that caused the inflation expectation to elevate, which then leads into the self-fulfilling prophecy of having higher inflation within the economy. Now, granted, yes, all the money printing, severing of the supply chain, all this stuff definitely created the inflation that we are having here, but it was also the behavior of the people themselves and how they ended up believing and reacting to the issues that were happening at hand that then created the inflation scenario that we experienced. It's one thing that I found studying the economy is everything is counterintuitive to what you might thought. It is. All right. After the insurance, but I don't suggest that. Agreed, Tom. Okay. I am a carpenter in Phoenix metro area. The high-end stuff is still cooking along. If you are in tract homes outside of the core areas, things are slowing down. All right. Nice beer today, Simon. Yeah, I'm about ready to get rid of it. So with the perception difference between quantitative tightening and quantitative easing, what do you see moving forward? Well, what I see moving forward is that we kind of discussed it a little bit in yesterday's video. How much time we got? Okay, we got 10 minutes or so. So we kind of talked about it a little bit in yesterday's video. What I feel is going to be taking place at some point here in the next 6 months or so, ish, maybe, right? Because nobody can predict the future, is that we're going to be running into some serious liquidity issues, right? The quantitative tightening that is occurring right now, the Federal Reserve is literally pulling money out of the system. Now, people don't really know this because they don't understand what quantitative tightening is. A lot of people still think that the Fed is printing money, which is the exact opposite of quantitative tightening. However, because nobody understands it and the news isn't out there really like being that prevalent in giving the people the information as far as like, hey, they're tightening up policy, all this other stuff. They don't tell them that in that fashion. I mean, some news articles talk about it, but not like they talked about the inflation scenario. I mean, they had news articles talking about how everybody was going to die here in the next couple of years because of the inflation scenario, and hardly anybody knows what quantitative tightening is. So really, the Federal Reserve is in this position that is going to start restricting the banking system, right? And you can already see that happening with the Silicon Valley Bank all the way up to the, to the New York Community Bank and all that. This is the restriction upon the financial system that is supposed to impact the consumer out there, right? If you constrict the banking system, then there's less loans to go out there. Less loans going out means less participation within the economy. And then things start to slow down. Essentially, what they're looking for is the people stop getting hired. They want unemployment to rise. Once unemployment starts to rise, that screws with their dual mandate. Then they have the reasons that they can actually adjust interest rates. Understanding all this is like, I know, it's really difficult. So I even forgot where I was going with this. What was, where were we going forward? Okay, so as they restrict the monetary policies in the banking system and creating this issue where there's like tight credit and liquidity issues as far as being able to get the money or borrow the money to continue to operate in business, this becomes very difficult. Okay, so that's the liquidity restraint, the liquidity drying up. When this begins to happen, paying off debt becomes very difficult as business is hard to get the loans or refinance loans or just participating in the economy. Paying those debts is going to be the biggest issue, because if you don't pay your debts, then guess what? You get bankruptcy and defaults and all the other stuff that starts coming with it, all the signs of like recessionary pressures that would be coming to the economy, right? Okay, so as this liquidity is drying up and the recession starts to, or the recessionary signs, or I shouldn't say recession, but the recessionary signs, bankruptcies and foreclosures and all the other stuff that would happen from it, this is the position in which that you would typically think that the Federal Reserve would begin to step in to buy bonds, right? Stimulating the economy. This is what a lot of people are thinking. This is what the typical like outcome would be from the Federal Reserve. This is probably what's going to be portrayed. However, the Treasury has already made the statements that they are going to be in the market of buying back their own bonds. Now, we know that the music being played is not going to be liquidity crisis. This is going to be a very casual thing, very common, not a big deal. They announced it a long time ago, right? So nobody is going to be panicking at the time that the Treasury is buying back their own bonds. They are doing this to make sure that the bond market stays liquid. If somebody comes up with a bond to sell and there's nobody there, the Treasury says, I will take that. The market will stay liquid no matter what. That bond market, if it becomes illiquid, meaning that somebody shows up with a bond and it doesn't sell, that's going to be all hell breaking loose throughout the entire global economy. The death of money in the international monetary system would begin to take place in a very rapid fashion. It is so important that the monetary policy, or to the monetary policy, that the bond market stays liquid, that the Treasury is now sitting on literally hundreds of billions of dollars, right, prepared to participate within that bond market. Just go and look at the Treasury General account. They took out all this debt and they're sitting on cash. They're biding their time until it comes, right? And this is what I feel is going to be taking place coming into the future. They're not going to ease policy to make everybody's day kumbaya. Like, that's not going to happen. There is way too much irrational exuberance taking place within the economy right now for them to go ahead and just facilitate that anymore. So what we're going to experience is some mass layoffs, mass pain, mass, slowdown taking place within the economy, to the point that the Treasury is literally protecting its own bond market with its own cash, right? And this is the experience that we are going to get. And once we have got to the point that the unemployment rises significantly, then we could probably expect the Federal Reserve to do something about it, because that would be the shock to the economy that they would need in order to rapidly drop interest rates like they typically would do, because they need a shock to the economy. They don't need it, but they typically would operate in that fashion. The lowering of interest rates on a gradual, casual fashion is not, that's not part of the game. I don't know where that game came from. That's not part of the game. And so everybody thinks that that's the game. Like this slowly dropping interest rates because things haven't, like, I don't understand that. Like, to me, it's just like I have a very difficult time trying to wrap my head around that. Unless you include politics. If you put politics into it, then that makes total sense. Like, oh, it totally makes sense why they would do it. But I don't involve politics, so it doesn't make sense to me. All right, moving on. All right. I'd rather you stay true to the word of the title and taking the good faith viewers rather than misdirectional views. Hey, the title is very descriptive of this video. There is not a single bit of lie taking place within that title. Now, typically, I would not have called it that. I would have probably said, something of, this is how the Fed manipulates your mind or something like that, right? And it'll get 2, 3, 4,000 views, right? But this title is going to get a lot of views, I'm sure of it. And I proved it the other day where I did 2 titles back to back that literally got 30,000 views per video. And typically my videos lately have been getting like 5,000 views, all right? So, I mean, you can send me a bunch of money and that's easy enough. You can just go to the members only live stream. It's $1 a month, right? You can go to members only live stream. Those titles are going to be very descriptive. The videos are not fear-mongering at all. They're very detailed and very, informative to the highest level that I could possibly do. So, I mean, otherwise I got to come out here for entertainment if I want to make any money. So I do apologize to people who are taking offense to that, but I don't know what to do, it's not easy out here playing this game, and I don't want to be that way, but it's just unfortunate. I just have to. All right. Sorry to hear about the squatter. Yeah, totally. All right. Does Gary have any signs of improvement? Gary used to be a steel town. Anyone sitting on the fence about joining the channel? It's 100% worth doing. Thank you, Brody. I mean, the people who, you can just see the testimonials from some of the people who are joining that channel. It is like I believe it's close to over 400 people now, 400 members to the channel. And it's like, I don't know any other group that you would ever find of people who are that committed to truly understanding what has taken place within the economy, not just, some outlandish, concept of what is going to crash the economy or something like that, but truly what it is that's happening, truly what's happening with monetary policy, how it is that you can conduct yourself appropriately to you. That's the difference between, most people are telling you what you need to do. How the hell do they know? Right? How would they possibly know what it is that you can do or need to do? Right? You're 18 years old trying to figure out how you're going to earn some money and get the savings. You're 80 years old trying to figure out how to live out the rest of your life without running out of money. 2 totally different concepts, right? Of what it is that you need to do. And understanding it for yourself is the only way. All right. All right, Bittner, I came in late when it was dark, but traveled by a huge Amazon warehouse. All right, looking forward to the live stream later on. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, you bet. All right, thank you, Owen Baird, for joining the channel. See right there, we already got a member to the channel. We'll see you tomorrow, brother. All right, all hail the fellowship. I'm late, all right. Inelastic and elastic goods, sticky inflation. Yeah, and that's the other thing. You look at I was looking at a box of cereal this morning, right? So I'm pouring my cereal, and I'm looking at this huge box, and I'm like, and I look over at Sarah, I'm like, how much did you pay for this? She goes, well, I had to buy a double pack at Costco, but literally it was $6 for the 2 big old boxes. So it was this huge box of cereal for $3, and I'm like, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, you shop so good. And she goes, yeah, I mean, you got to shop around. You got to these stores all over the place. But she is so good at it. It's just it's unreal. People are talking about, oh man, food's so expensive. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I was just like, how big? And she goes, yeah, it's up a lot, but she shops so good that it didn't really impact us like it did a lot of people, because we changed the way, not only do we shop and the things that we buy, but where we buy them on a regular basis. I mean, she's good at it. That's all I can say. If it was just me, I don't know. I wouldn't take the time, but she takes the time, and it's good at it. All right, U.S. Treasuries. Thoughts? I don't know. Like, I think I gave my thoughts about the U.S. Treasuries right now with the Treasury market and what's going to happen here in the next 6 months to or so. I don't know when that's because nobody can predict the future. All right. It sounds like what you are saying would imply that hiking interest rates would be inflationary, but the Fed seems to treat it the opposite way around. I don't really get that. Okay. That is that yeah, because it's such a short-term aspect, right? Because the initial inflationary or the initial raising of interest rates would have an impact on the consumer. The consumer is really where our economy is based, right? We're not based on the production or the producer out there or the saver or the investor. It's really the consumer that's the important part because without the consumer, the economy just doesn't function. So lowering interest rates gets the consumer out there. But it's the return on investment that takes time. So it's like the beers and saws analogy. I'm sure that you've heard me talk about that one. But it's the beer and saws analogy, right? Where most of us, the consumers, are buying beer, where the investor and saver would be getting into saws. But since nobody goes into saws, the return on that higher interest rates doesn't really take place unless you have some significant time to it, and the savers can then reparticipate back into the economy with the return on the investments that they have. So one of them is a very short-term stimulative effect, lowering interest rates. The other one with the higher interest rates is more of a long-term return on that capital that then participates back into the economy. However, if you really look back at it in de Cantion's description of where interest rates and how they are established, when the economy is ramped up and things are taking place, you will find high interest rates. When the economy slows down and not a lot of people are participating in the economy, you will find low interest rates. So really, it's quite the opposite of what it is that everybody would ever think out there when it comes to where the position of interest rates are. Because they are forced into the economy and don't naturally occur, like if you think about it, the natural occurring economy where people are thinking, okay, we are ramping up, we are doing business, I need to get material, I need to get stuff so I can participate within the economy by selling it, producing something, and getting it back out there. I need money to do that. If everybody is doing that same idea, there is a high demand for money. If there's a high demand for money, then the people who are lending money out will recognize that and say, hey, I want a high interest rate because there is a huge demand for money out there. However, if the economy is really slow and I'm not trying to get money to buy things so I can participate in the economy, I'm just sitting back going, nah, I don't think so, right? Then the people who have money are going, hey, where's the borrowers, right? I need to find borrowers. And so they start lowering interest rates to try and find somebody to borrow the money. But that's like a whole different concept when you think about hard currency and a free market system. And then you got the manipulation coming from the central bank system that we are experiencing today. Totally different like view of it. But once you kind of understand that, then it starts making a lot more sense on why it is that the high interest rates would actually be creating a situation in which the economy would then start ramping up and heating up and participating more into reinvestment back into production. But we don't consume, or we don't produce, we consume. So it's very different. I don't know. Did I explain all that right? We are 33 minutes into it. Okay, I'm going to give it like another 5 minutes because I don't really want these live streams to be very long. I think a lot of people get annoyed by the 2-hour live streams. If you want to enjoy a 2-hour live streams, you can join the channel for $1 a month. And you can find some of the best work that I have ever done in my entire life on those live streams. All right, let me cruise down here. Hey, look at that. I got another member. Thank you so much, C Gear, for joining the channel. We'll see you tomorrow, man. Real food was alive or growing at some point. Everything else is chemically compound. Yep, I totally agree. All right, hit the bottom. Okay, I'm going to cruise back up here a little bit. Sorry I skipped over all those comments. There's so many comments in here right now. We got 355 people watching with 114 likes. Go hit that like button over the next 5 minutes here. YouTube algorithm will love it. They'll take this video, go spread it around for more people to join in. Okay. No, I did not. Are people really that stupid? Okay, no more. I live in Battle Creek, Michigan. Kellogg is woke. Yes. Orange, Jesus will save us. Oh, yeah. Kellogg was sick man and a sadist. Okay. Here we go. Rick, her friend asked, oh, you guys are talking here. Okay, wait until augmented reality devices replace smartphones. You think people are disconnected from reality now? It's going to get nuts. Yeah, I mean, people are very disconnected from reality. All right, I have bananas and avocados, and everyone here wants them. Oh, Raven, that's sense. Okay, cereal is great. Diabetes, tooth loss, weight gain, metabolic disease, real healthy stuff. All right, yeah, man. I don't care, dude. I mean, I eat that stuff. I'll eat ribeyes. I eat apples. Like, I eat all the good stuff, man. Like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy a bowl of cereal every now and then. It's like I don't. I'm gonna enjoy ribeyes too. All right. In kombucha. Hey, right on. Another live stream member. Self-education. Thank you so much. All right, I finally caught up 2 times to normal speed is a change. Yeah. Hello from Germany. Hey, thank you so much. What is that? Doi Punk Zero? I can't. Doyle Punk Zero? Hey, I appreciate the shout out from Germany, man. That's cool. All right. Push that like button. Punish that like button. Yes, please do. Good to see we have health conscious viewers here. We can keep streaming forever. Yeah, and no, I do appreciate the health conscious people because man, we've had discussions on that one in the past, and we wasn't it Brody and All Nighter going at that one at one point? All right, no, we're all love here. Okay. Meat is real food. Ribeye, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally in agreement. All right, cereal ain't that bad. Relax. Yeah, no kidding. It's not. All right, rural poor, that is, not urban poor. All right. UE, have you started working on any courses yet? Yes, I have. That's actually, thank you for bringing that up because it is something that I am focusing on. I am trying to put those courses together. I'm not exactly sure how they should look. I'm bringing in some help, some family help to my sister, who took a lot of online courses and was very educated. And so like I got her kind of helping me out on what it is, kind of guiding me through a little bit. Still haven't started anything yet, but definitely have it, in the preliminaries as far as what it is that I need to do in order to get this thing done. In the meantime, I'm really trying to push that members only. I think that's probably like the best place that we could go to learn for real, like the deep topics to understand what's going on within the economy and the monetary policy. I think that's probably like the best start right now. Ultimately, what it is that needs to be done, most people are at different levels, right? And so it's really difficult to say, hey, here's the course that I'm going to put out there for my viewers because the viewers are all different levels, right? So you got different course levels in which that you need to, really design for the specific aspects of the viewers. Consultation calls, that's the other one. Like I figure, people who are needing like I got most of it, or I got a good chunk of it, or I just need some clarification on this particular topic or something like that. I'm offering up consultation calls. There's a link down in the description for that as well. I've done a few of those in the past, not many. Most of the consultation calls that I did were more personal growth kind of things. Like we hardly talked about the economy at all, but just more talked about like how it is that, we kind of conduct ourselves through life. And I was pretty surprised by that's what the conversations were really going towards. I mean, there was a couple of them that had to do with business, like distribution networks and stuff like that, that I've done. But, really I've done business calls all the way down to like, just people just like, I think just wanted to really just have a conversation. And so anyway, that's offered up to for anybody who's looking for something like that. All right, guys. 2 more minutes here, minute and a half, and then I'm gonna call it quits. What's up, UE? Hey, DeLone Voice, man. It's great to see you here. All right, cereal is absolutely that bad. Okay, good to know. All right. Keep the potatoes. I will have the meat. Yeah. All right. EU bank bailouts are actually bond marker bailouts. Yeah. All right. Meaning YouTube Premium. I'm looking forward to the courses. Yeah, thank you, Brody. I mean, I'm looking forward to putting them together. I don't want to rush it. I want to do them something that's good, like something that I can really be proud of, that when I get out there, like whether I'm doing like, a speaking engagement or putting these videos out or just doing whatever it is that I got going on, to be able to provide a good quality course that people would really enjoy and get a lot of benefit out of. And that's the most important part. Like, I mean, putting the course together to earn some money is important to me, but putting together a course that I know is going to benefit the people is far more important. So, I mean, I want to do it right. You know what I'm saying? Pedro's, it may be Android Apple issue. Sometimes it's hidden on the certain devices. Maybe try another. Okay, you guys are kind of talking. Thank you, All Nighter. All Nighter is just like, he's the best, man. There's like, he is everywhere all the time, you know? Gotta go. Take care, everyone. Excited for the future live stream. Alrighty, guys. This has been a great live stream. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the at least the first 10 minutes of it, breaking down the credible threat theory. Not only does James Rickard talk about it from 2014 in his book, we're talking about it just recently in the Federal Reserve speeches given by Chris Waller. Links are down in the description. Come back and join us for the live stream tomorrow. I will set up a link for that, so you can come back to the channel and, you know, find a link that will be set up for tomorrow's live stream. I'm not exactly sure on what time I'm going to do that. I'm going to discuss with my family right now what it is that they have planned for tomorrow so that I don't interrupt that too much. That's it. All right. Uneducated Economist. You let me know. And